Good morning, dear friends. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship at Stony Brook. I welcome you who are here in our sanctuary and all who are attending virtually. Wherever you are this morning, welcome. My name is Carol Castillo, and I am happy to be your worship associate this morning. Our minister is the Reverend Dr. Madelyn Campbell, and our Director of Religious Education is Deb Little. Please plan to join us after the service for coffee and conversation, and beyond that for the town hall, but you'll hear about that later on. For those who are with us online, if you sign off after the service and return to our website, you will find the link for joining our small group chats. Whether here or online, you will find some friendly folks who can answer any questions that you may have. We will center into the space of worship with the sounding of the morning bell, so please remain silent until the tone can no longer be heard.
Hello, we are going to play a song of mine that I wrote, which sort of is my answer to a lot of the questions that I had throughout my life regarding important things. So hopefully some of you will be able to relate to some of this. For the rest of you, it will be something new and different. 1, 2, 3. I'm a Buddhist Unitarian and also proudly Jew. I meditate each morning and I pray for me and you, for people whom I barely know and some I would eschew, and all the beings in our world and other planets too. My parents said we're Jewish, and the Jewish was okay. Yet we celebrated Christmas like it was our holiday. And in the spring no Seder, but an Easter basket gay. While Jews in name our rituals, my folks had cast away. I chose to go to Hebrew school, then found it most unfair that while I toiled my Gentile friends could play without a care. In summer there was Quaker camp and Christian Science too, but in my bones I realized that I was still a Jew. I married a lapsed Catholic and we entered on a quest to find a house of worship that would help us be our best. Religion based on reason, making do without the rest. And we could choose which holidays to celebrate with zest. That would be Christmas and Passover, the fun ones. We joined the local UU church, it served us very well. Community, shared values, and no talk of heaven or hell. But I've known angst and suffering which mere reasoning could not quell. So I joined the Buddhist Sangha where we're silent at the bell. As Jew I would repair the world, that's what we call tikkun olam. As Buddhists practice kindness, with the knowledge we are one. My UU church embraces both when all is said and done, and adds a third identity called Unitarian. I am a Jewish Buddhist and a Unitarian. It may sound strange, but I insist it really can be done. So many pathways lead to truth, why must we choose but one? Indeed, I sometimes think my quest has only just begun.
Yeah, that's an excellent model for all of us. I hope we all think that our quest has just begun. Come, enter into this space made holy by our presence. Enter into this hour made holy by our intention. Bring your questions here. Bring your doubts. Bring your curiosity. Bring your whole self. Let us enter in. And let us worship together.
This morning, I have invited Doris King to light our chalice. So while Doris does that, the flaming chalice is the symbol of Unitarian Universalism. We kindle the flame of our faith in the cup of our covenant. May the cup nourish us. May the flame be our guide as we seek our way. I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join in singing our first hymn, number 360. Again, it's 360, Here We Have Gathered.
Sometimes I don't remember my own order of service. So we're going to have a time for all ages, and we're having our question box service today. And a little later, everybody in the room will have a chance to write down questions, and I will answer them. But I wanted to reserve this time especially for children to ask any questions that you might have. Maybe you have a question for me. Maybe you have a question for little Pastor Madelyn. But you have a question. Oh, you were just laughing. Okay, that's fair. So do you have any questions at all about religion, Unitarian Universalism, why we come to this congregation every Sunday? Who is little Pastor Madelyn? Any questions at all? Do you have any questions for me? Yes. What's the doll doing here? This is little Pastor Madelyn, and she's like my avatar. You know what an avatar is? A symbol that... From video games. You have avatars. It's exactly right. And she travels with me, and she's like my flat Stanley. So I take pictures of her in places, and she has different clothes, and she does different things. And sometimes, and I bring her for things like this because sometimes people feel more comfortable speaking to her than speaking to me directly. Audrey, you had a question.
Yeah, is that a Barbie?
It's a skipper, actually, but it's part of the Barbie family. Did you see the Barbie movie? Did you? You saw the Barbie movie, yeah. Go Barbie, okay. Do you have any other questions about our faith, about anything? Well, I have some questions, not just for you, for anybody in the room then. I'm going to give you some questions. Who can tell me what year the Unitarians and the Universalists merged? Kind of close. 1961, yes. John, 2 points for John. He has the right answer. Okay. And who can tell me who John Murray was? I see a hand way back there. He was the founding father of Universalism in the United States. In New Jersey, do you know the story of John Murray? He was sailing to the United States, and he had become a Universalist. He was a Presbyterian minister, and he thought that it didn't make sense that if God loved us so much that he'd still send half of us to hell. He said, no, God is more loving than we can even imagine. Everybody goes to heaven. Absolutely everybody. God's love is overpowering and overwhelming, and everybody goes to heaven. So he was coming to the United States to preach his Universalism, and his ship got stuck on a sandbar off the coast of New Jersey. You know what a sandbar is? If you've been to the beach. We have an island here. We're on an island. You know what sandbars are, right? So his ship was stuck, and he came ashore, and there was a farmer who just happened to have built a chapel in the area. And he asked John Murray to preach there on Sunday, and John Murray said, well, if my ship's still stuck, I will. And it was, and he did. And thus sprung up Universalism in New Jersey, and it also came up kind of independently in New Hampshire around the same time. Who can tell me, last question, who our president of the Unitarian Universalist Association is? Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt. Absolutely. You know, we just elected her at General Assembly in June. So you're doing very well on your Unitarian Universalist and Unitarian Universalist history. So you all get an A. And we are going to proceed with the service. And if you have more questions later that you didn't think of in this special time, you can write them down too.
Okay, it's time for meditation. Following our meditation in word, We will sit in silence for a minute, and then we will sing hymn number 123, Spirit of Life. If you are not familiar with it, you may want to open your hymnal to that at this time and have it in your lap for when we do that. So that's number 123, Spirit of Life. So first we'll begin with spoken words. Our meditation this morning is taken from the UUA's Worship Web and is written by Linda M. Hansen. It is called, May We Seek the True Questions. Much of our human struggle is with what we do not know or understand. It is often difficult not to want answers, or even more difficult not to think we have them already. May we experience what we do not know as an individual failure. May we experience what we do not know not as an individual failure, but as an invitation to community. May we seek not the true answers so much as the true questions, knowing that true questions make our lives meaningful, even if sometimes restless journeys. May we be grateful for the restless voices in our communities. Let's take a few moments of silence to listen for the restless voices within ourselves. Instead of a reading this morning, you are invited to write down your questions for Pastor Madelyn. Write them on the cards that you have, and we also have some pens if you need one. What can you ask her? Well, just about anything. Do you have a burning theological question? Perhaps a question about Unitarian, Universalist, or Unitarian Universalist history. Maybe you want to know about Fred, the very unusual sculpture that lives in Pastor Madelyn's office. Maybe you have questions about interim ministry or interim ministers. Whatever your questions, write them down. If you will hold them up when you're finished writing, the ushers will collect them.
Thank you. That was Gershwin, you said? Gershwin. My grandfather believed that Gershwin was the only music that mattered. So we're still collecting questions. That's fine. Today is our question box service. Now, if you've ever taken OWL or taught OWL, has anybody here taken OWL? Yeah, some have taught OWL. I see some hands up. That's our whole lives. You'll know what a question box is. You submit your questions and I will answer them. Now, I can already tell we're not going to have enough time to get through all of the questions this morning because you have a lot of questions. Good for you. And I know we didn't have any that came in from the folks watching online, but if you would, Rob, am I on this camera? If you have questions that have suddenly come up that you didn't send in to me, feel free to send them to minister@uufsb.org, and I'm going to put all the answers in the. I'll try to get them in this week's news feed, but certainly by the following week. Okay. So we'll get to all the questions, but we might not get to all of them here in the service. So read your newsfeed. So do we have all the questions now? Do we have all the questions? I think we do. Okay, Carol has all the questions, and she's going to read them to me one at a time, and she might do a little editing because it's possible that several of you had similar questions, or she might have to edit down for time. Any questions we don't get to today, I will answer and put in the newsfeed. All right. Are you ready to rock and roll? Let's see.
I'm going to try to combine and synthesize and edit as we go. So forgive me if you don't hear your question verbatim. Let's start with, when non-UUs ask me what is Unitarian Universalism, I usually give a long rambling answer. Can you give a 1-2 sentence answer for what is Unitarian Universalism?
I can. Unitarian Universalism is a covenantal rather than a creedal faith. So we come together joined by our covenant, which tells us how we behave with one another and interact with the world. But we have many differing beliefs. We do not require a statement of belief.
Okay. Why are we so resistant to change when all the facts say it is in our best interest?
Why are we so resistant to change? Well, it's not just Unitarian Universalists who are resistant to change. Humans tend to be very resistant to change. Animals tend to be very resistant to change. Have any of you ever moved with a cat? Because we know our surroundings, we know how things work, and that helps us feel safe, right? In the days when we were hunter-gatherers and before, we had to be aware of the world, and when we don't know when things are changing, then we don't know what we should be afraid of, what's dangerous, what's safe. And I think that that's hardwired within us. And yet we know that things are always changing. We who live on an island, I believe there is no one here who has never been to the beach, right? Everybody here has been to a beach at least once. You know that if you go down to the edge, to the shore, and you stand there and you think that things aren't going to change, the waves come in and the sand changes right underneath your feet. And what do we have to do? We have to adjust. We have to change. So some people, you know, we say there is only one constant, and that's change. But it can be scary. Absolutely.
I didn't realize this, but we have a place in our sanctuary called Rookie Row. So a newcomer, I assume. What can new members volunteer in to get involved? And I'll just throw in if, well, no, it doesn't have to do with volunteering, so go ahead with that one.
So I joked about Rookie Row this morning because there's a whole row in the back of more recent members, people who have signed the membership book. What can new members do to get involved? Wow, almost anything that you would like. I think that you might want to be here for more than a few months before you volunteer to serve on the board. Or a search committee. But beyond that, there are so many ways to get involved. What are your gifts and what speaks to you? I'm going to badly paraphrase the theologian James Cone, who said, don't ask what the world needs, ask what inspires you, what makes you come alive, because the world needs more people who have come alive. So what makes you come alive? Where are your gifts? Are your gifts in taking care of the building and grounds? Are your gifts in ministering to others? Are you interested in being a lay pastoral care associate? Are your gifts in organization and computer skills? What makes you come alive? How would you like to share your gifts with us? Okay.
I'm going to combine two here. It's a question asking about outreach towards bringing in students from campus, and I'm going to blend that with a question about what do we do about changing the way we look, which is really our demographic, where we skew older, we skew whiter, and what are our blind spots? What are we missing out on because of that?
So that's not about getting a makeover. Okay. Because change the way you look, go get a haircut. Okay. So, campus outreach. Many congregations that sit this close, and there are few congregations that are closer than we are to a big university. I mean, I've been a minister in university towns before, but we can spit onto the Stony Brook campus, and half the faculty are in the room right now. So, but we don't have an active campus outreach ministry. So perhaps that is your gift. Perhaps that is something that you would be interested in starting up. Pastor Madelyn, why didn't you start one up when you came here? Because I'm the interim minister, and I don't start new things for you, because now I'm handing something brand new to the new minister who's coming in. But you can start it. If that's important to you, that's something that you could absolutely start up. And I will tell you, having been involved in a campus ministry program before, it's a fair bit of work on the part of the congregation, and what you get in return, although, you know, it's not a commercial contract kind of thing, but what you get in return is intangible, right? You're reaching people, you're helping young folks. What are things that you can do with a campus ministry? Care packages around exam time, right? Going to the campus, because it's not likely that they're going to come here, but going to the campus to meet with them and to be present with them. All kinds of things. What can we do to attract younger folks to the congregation? Well, we have to loosen up our reins of control and let younger people take the lead in areas. We have to look at what we're doing and where we are and ask ourselves, I'm really comfortable here, but would a young adult be comfortable here? What do young adults need and want in a religious community? I think it goes beyond candy, though. So, you know, how can we bring folks in without making it seem like they're here to do us a favor? Because nobody wants to come in to do you a favor, right? We don't want to think about when you were new in the congregation, in any congregation. It's not because people said, oh, thank goodness you're here. We really need somebody to fill in this job, right? What will make people welcome? And one way to do that is to ask young people and to go out where young people are. I think we have to get out of the mindset that the only way we can do, I'm going to use the C word, church, but the only way we can do worship and do spirituality is by being in this room on Sunday mornings. Where can we meet people where they are and serve them where they are? And that's a way to bring in new folks. Okay,
I'm going to combine a couple. One question is, why do some UUs speak of God? And the other one is, in times of distress, who do UUs pray to?
So we are a covenantal rather than a creedal faith, which means we have people with many different beliefs here. Some of us are theists, and very deeply theistic, and some of us are atheists and very deeply atheistic, and everything in between. So some UUs do believe in God. It's probably not a secret that I'm one. But the beauty of our faith is that with all these different ways of relating to the divine, we come together and we worship together and we fulfill our covenant together and work toward our mission together. And what was the second part of that? Oh, in times of distress.
Yeah, who do UUs pray to?
Whom do UUs pray to? Well, that's a very individual question. I can't answer that because there is no one answer. Some Unitarian Universalists do not pray at all. Some turn to the faith they've always known. So using their Unitarian Universalist tools, some people in times of stress turn to what they knew when they were younger. So I'm going to tell you a story about my husband of blessed memory. He grew up, well, a lot of different things, but as a young adult, he was a Mormon and into his middle age. And then he left that intentionally, and he started going to the Unitarian Universalist Church, where we met. Are you shocked to know I met my husband in church? And he was on his spiritual journey. He started out by saying, well, he was an atheist. And then he said, no, not really. He was a mystic. But he was definitely not Christian. And at the end of his life, we had our congregation had a pastoral choir, a choir that would go around to visit people in times of stress and need and difficulty and sing to them. And they asked me, well, what does he want to hear? And I asked him, and he said, the old rugged cross. I said, wow, okay. I was surprised, but that was from his youth. And so that's where he was leaning. That gave him comfort. And they sang, among other hymns, many from our hymnal, but they sang to him the old rugged cross. And the choir, well, the whole congregation sang it at his funeral. Oh, yeah, right? There was not a dry eye. So, depends on what's deep within us. And that's whom we pray to or don't pray to.
I had one that was kind of a follow-up. Somebody was wondering about connecting with God and their own family's religion and cultures, or one in specific, if I understand the question, their own beliefs, but they want to learn about many beliefs.
Excellent, excellent. So this is a good place to start because we welcome many beliefs and we draw from many faith traditions. So coming to worship regularly is a good place to start. Looking for adult education classes. I don't know whoever wrote that question what your tradition is, but you know we have a Saturday morning Sangha in addition to our regular worship services. I don't think the humanist discussion group is that currently, I think that's on hiatus. But you know, and maybe if you're interested in starting something or learning about something, come and ask me, because you know we could do a class on different things. So the Unitarian Universalist congregations are a great place to start that journey. If you really, really want to know, I would say there's a university. Does Stony Brook have? I think they have a Department of Religion. Yeah. Yeah. So you can go right over there and go get yourself a degree in comparative religions, or audit some classes or something like that. Right? Like if you really want to know. the secret is that's why I keep going back to school, because there are things that I really want to know, and school makes me do it.
Here's a couple of fun ones. I'm going to put two in one question time. What is your Pokemon, and what are you going to be for Halloween?
Oh, those are great questions. You know, I haven't played Pokemon in several years, so I don't know what mine would be. I really have to think about that for a while. I really do. What were the ones that I liked? But it's been a long time since I've played that. What am I going to be for Halloween? It's time for me to get started on that. I don't know. I will take some suggestions. Can't promise that I will do them, but I will take some suggestions later on for what you think I should be for Halloween. I will tell you, in the past, I have been the Theotokos. Do you know what the Theotokos is? It's the icon of Mary in blue with a red. She always wears blue as her color, with a red like veil over the top, holding the baby Jesus. And his hands are, that's the Mother of God, Theotokos. So I have been the Theotokos icon before. I have been Miguel Cervantes, who was burned at the stake, right? So I've done some interesting things in the past. So I will absolutely take suggestions. It's time to think about that.
Okay, here, 3 different cards. I'll put them all together in a bit of a run-on, and then we'll go with it. In the 19th century, Unitarians were not liberal, especially politically, but in the 20th century, they have become liberal. Why? Why so much focus on woke when 7 main principles should be the main focus? And why do we have to focus so much on social justice? Can't we just come to church and hear a sermon?
Oh, okay. So I'll answer the first question first, and then the rest of them I'll put all together in an answer. So the first question about Unitarians, the historical Unitarians in the 18th and 19th centuries not being particularly liberal, well, that's because they were the power people. They were the Boston elite, and they had a lot to lose from being, from liberal causes. So John C. Calhoun, do you know who John C. Calhoun was? A senator from South Carolina and one of the main architects of, well, eventually the Civil War and of being pro-slavery. He was one of the founders of All Souls Church in Washington, D.C. People don't give up power, right? Voluntarily. We have to go and take it. We have to take what is ours. So the Universalists were farmers and working people. It was a working class faith. So over time, as they did more and more together, the theologies started to blend. We still have threads of that elitism running through Unitarian Universalism today. Sometimes more than threads, maybe like whole cloth, but we still have a lot of that. But the Universalists certainly helped moderate that. So social justice, why can't we just come and hear a sermon? Well, because the whole purpose of religion is bound up in liberation theology, in making the world a better place, in living out our faith in the world. So we have our values, and woke means being awake to, being aware of the needs of others instead of just focusing on myself, right? And some people have taken that to use as a slur. Oh, the woke mob, the woke mob. But why is there a woke mob, if there is such a thing? Why are because people don't give up power voluntarily. Because when our eyes are opened to the oppression of others, we are bound by our faith, absolutely bound by our faith, to work on behalf of the oppressed and to work with the oppressed. So some people say the job of the minister during worship is to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. So if we're asking, why do I have to hear this? I would say, ask yourself, what is my social location? Am I aware of the needs of others? Am I living my life in such a way that I am benefiting from the oppression of others? Am I feeling guilty when I hear this? If you're feeling guilty, I ask you, well, what can I do to make a difference? Because if we're not going to do the work of our faith out in the world, then, we can just retreat into ourselves and become spiritual hermits. And people have done that, literally, gone into the hills and been hermits. But that does nothing to tikkun olam, to repair the world, right?
I was going to go in another direction, but I found a question that may have already just been answered. I'll read it out anyway. How can we remain hopeful, true, I think it says true, in a world so full of challenge and strife?
Oh, that's an excellent question. How can we remain hopeful when all... So, I was raised Jewish also, and I'm Jewish and, which we heard a wonderful song about, right? Maybe you know Fiddler on the Roof, which spoke to me when I saw it on Broadway at 10 years old. Oh, these are my people. Right? And there's a song in which the men sing, it's to life. God would like us to be joyful even when our hearts lie bleeding on the floor. How much more can we be joyful when there's really something to be joyful for? To life, l'chaim, right? We must find the joy. We must celebrate the little things. It's fun. To do the work of rebuilding the world, we do not have to be sour, angry people. And if we look at everything that's going on at once, it can be really disheartening, yes? Yes, I see heads nodding. But let's look at the little things and the little areas in which we are making victories, in which we do have something to celebrate. Sometimes they're personal things. My relative is coming home whom I haven't seen in a while. Yay! Sometimes it's community things. We got our floors waxed. Yay! We did. You see how nice, right? Or our Black Lives Matter banner went back up. Or we're about to have in-gathering again, and I love in-gathering. It's so much fun. Sometimes it's big, big, big things, like something that we've been working for in the world, and a decision comes down from a court, and it backs what we've been working for. These things do happen. So while we can't ignore everything that's going on in the world, we can celebrate even little victories. And if things are getting to you too much, what I recommend is canceling your newspaper subscription. Seriously, I have done this many times and then resubscribed later, right? If you can't read the news without being in a funk all day, then don't read the news. You'll hear about the really super important big stuff anyway through word of mouth, but don't get bogged down in page 67 of the New York Times, right? Find ways to enjoy your life. And keep coming here because we can celebrate together and encourage one another.
So there are some you're going to find in the basket when you go over, because I know you'll get to them, but some that have to do with you personally and interim ministry. The first one simply asks, can you stay here?
Oh, beloveds, thank you. No. I can't. Why? But why can't you, Pastor Madelyn? Because in order to do the things that I do as an interim minister effectively, to stir the pot, maybe some of you have noticed I've stirred the pot occasionally. I have the freedom to do that because I'm pre-fired. Right? So the things that I'm doing are not helpful for establishing a great long-term relationship with you. Are there some of you who think, but oh, I love this, and I absolutely could support a long-term ministry? Yeah, there probably are. And there are probably some people who are like, how much longer until she's gone? Right. So I'm helping you, and you're doing a lot of work on this, to be the best congregation you know how to be, to examine yourselves and to really know who you are so that you can call the long-term settled minister who is the appropriate and the right minister for you. And I'm very excited for you. Now, I will say that of all the congregations I've served, I got to tell you, I think I'm going to miss you the most. You are delightful, but I'm still delighted that I can be here to do this job with you and for you so that you can have a wonderful ministry going forward.
So in the same vein, someone commented that it seems hard to move around a lot as an interim minister. There were questions about what do you find most challenging. Maybe, I don't know if you want to answer them. Where do you want to end up as a settled minister? Another question was, do you want to end up as a settled minister?
I don't know. I seem to be pretty good at this interim stuff. And I'm not sure if I want to do, for a while I thought I might want to do a settled ministry, but I'm not sure. It used to be, you know, I'm a fully accredited interim minister. And it used to be that you couldn't be an interim minister at all until you were in full fellowship, which means you had served congregations already. These days, more and more ministers are starting out doing interim, and I started out doing transitional ministry. I won't say never, because I went to seminary saying, I am not called to parish ministry, I'm called to chaplaincy. And God was all, no, get in the car, we're going to seminary, it's fine. And then at the end was, surprise, you're going to parish ministry. Like, how did that happen? So I won't say never, but I'm thinking about going into interim search this coming year. And we'll see where that leads. Maybe Canada, who knows?
I don't know if this is a quickie or not. Why did you leave nursing?
Why did I leave nursing? Okay, so that's an interesting question too. I was a family nurse practitioner. I loved what I did. It was very stressful, but I loved what I did. But I was working in a private practice where I was, I will just say, underappreciated and undercompensated. And my husband was working at Fannie Mae at the time, and they had a temp agency that was just a dedicated temp agency for Fannie Mae. So I left the practice, and I went to Fannie Mae temping, thinking I'm going to look for another nurse practitioner position. Well, first of all, I had a house full of I would say, special needs children. We were foster parents, and that was taking a lot of attention. And I got to Fannie Mae, and I was working as an administrative assistant in the economics department, and it was suddenly a no-stress job. This is nice. I go home at night, and I'm just chill. And then I was offered a permanent position there, and the compensation, the whole compensation package, was better than what I was making as a nurse practitioner. As an administrative assistant. No shame on administrative assistants. I did that for 10 years, and I was good at it. But it was the right thing for in my life at that time. I continued to, Fannie Mae gave me 10 hours of volunteer time a month, so I continued to volunteer at the Arlington Free Clinic as a nurse practitioner, which Fannie Mae was paying me to do. But I did that until, you know, one thing I wasn't doing when I was working full-time as an administrative assistant was keeping up my continuing education units. So eventually my license expired. And I didn't do it anymore. I consider this part of the same calling. So I felt a calling to be a nurse, and I did that. And then I heard the calling to ministry, and I kept putting it on hold, and I kept putting it on hold, and I kept putting it on hold for probably 15 years at least, until it started coming through a bullhorn. So then I just kind of had to do this. And for a long time, I kept up my RN license, not my nurse practitioner license, but I kept renewing my RN license, but I was never working as a nurse. And finally, there was a time at which I said, you know, I can let go of that. If I ever need it again in the future, I can get it back.
So there are some we didn't get to. Some of them are kind of like, you know, UU 101 stuff that, and I know you said you'll answer them
I'll
in the
answer them in the newsletter.
So let's just, in the interest of time, we'll do one more, and I'll let you pick. Do you want the red or the white one?
The red or the white one? Oh, let's go with the red one.
Is a pastor still a pastor if you don't call her a pastor?
So pastor is the job, and yet I'm never not a minister. I was ordained. That license doesn't expire, right? I was ordained. I was called. The stole was placed around my neck for the first time at my ordination. So I'm never not a minister. I'm sometimes on vacation, and I'm sometimes not serving people, but I'm never not a minister, regardless of what anybody calls me. All right, yeah, boy, we were talking for a long time there. So the rest of the questions Carol's going to give to me, and I will answer in the news feed. And those of you playing the home game, if you have questions that you didn't get to send in this week, feel free to send them to my email, and I will put those in the news feed too. Offering.
All right, thank you, everybody, for your questions. I feel lucky to have been able to see them all. Okay, it is our spiritual practice to share our offering plate with an organization working for a more just future. Our Share the Plate organization for the month of August is Building Bridges in Brookhaven. Building Bridges in Brookhaven was formed in 2015 in response to the mass shooting at a Bible study gathering in Charleston, South Carolina. In addition to the immediate response, it continued as a coalition of organizations. Thank you. That could respond to hate crimes in the future. Both individuals and organizations can be members. They have monthly meetings which highlight one of the member organizations or a new group that wants to introduce themselves to the wider audience. Please give with generosity to support our fellowship and this very worthwhile, very local organization. You may make your gifts on the plate or online, and for those online, the link to donate is in the chat box. The offering will now be gratefully received.
So, Ron, right? This is a song by Chris Smither called I Don't Know, and it's very much on the point of this service.
Where does daytime go when I'm asleep at night?
To the other side of the world, they're all in the light.
How do they sleep at all if they've got sunshine in their eyes?
They don't, they go to bed about the time you rise.
If they sleep while I'm awake, when do we talk to them? What time do they eat? How do we know when? If today here is tomorrow there, can that be so?
I don't know.
Were you as big as you are now when I was born?
I've been this big a long time, that's why my face is worn.
But were you ever little? And if so, where was I?
Yes, I was, but you weren't anywhere or any why.
How could I be nowhere if I'm here today? Nothing is just nothing. Who showed you the way? And if something comes from nothing, then what makes it grow?
I don't know.
Well, who's got all the answers if it isn't you?
No one's got them all, though some will say they do.
Well, if they try to fool me, then what should I say?
If you're just polite, they'll usually go away.
What's the dumbest question that ever there could be?
Dumbest one's the one you never ask of me. The wisest one's the answer. The wisest answer's one you learned a long time ago. I don't know. Yeah, the wisest answer's one you learned a long time ago. I don't know.
Thank you. I invite you to join me in dedicating the offering. The words are in your bulletin. To the work of our faith, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings. Amen. Thank you. And now I invite you to rise in body or spirit to sing our final hymn, number 414, which is called As We Leave This Friendly Place. Please remain standing through the benediction and extinguishing of the chalice, and then I will invite you to be seated again for the postlude, and don't go away because we're having a town hall right after the service, so that applies to the folks online as well. Beloveds, go in peace, go in love, go and ask more questions, and go always in the footsteps of the holy. Amen. And now, we extinguish our chalice flame, for our worship has ended, and our service begins.
This is another song by me. It's the first song I ever wrote, and it's a dialogue. It's eventually about a dialogue I had with my father when he was in his last months of life, and he was beginning to ask some questions. My father was an atheist, he didn't believe in God. He would not go to a temple or church, he preferred to play in the sod. His garden was his temple, he said it was no sin. His tomatoes and his beans, his flowers and his greens were religion enough for him.
His tomatoes and his beans and his flowers and his greens were religion enough for him.
Now I loved my dad, but not his ways. I had too many questions inside. like where did the good and the bad come from, and what happened when you died. So I left him in his garden, and to churches I did run. I tried a few and then became a Unitarian.
I tried a few and then became a Unitarian.
My father lived a great long time, of ills he had his share. His garden was a potted plant he could tend from his wheelchair. He did not like what he could see as he searched the path ahead. So he thought and thought and thought some more, and this is what he said. I can't believe there won't be me when my days on earth are done. But I've done the math and there's just no room for us all to be reborn. So I think that I'll become a star way up in the midnight sky. And you'll be able to wave at me as I am passing by.
And you'll be able to wave at me as I am passing by.
So when I look at the stars at night, I think that I can see my Father gazing down on us from his place in the galaxy. He'll never know my grandkids nor bounce them on his knee. But at least as long as I'm alive, he'll be alive in me. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. That was lovely. Hi, everyone. Just a couple of announcements. I hope you all know that today we're going to have our town hall. We're going to be starting it at 12:15, and that'll be going on Zoom at 12:15. So I'm hoping we'll be settled and in our seats by 12:15. We'll have coffee hour first, but we have a bit to get set up. So well, of course, not a whole hour of coffee hour, but we'll do our coffee and. So I'm going to ask if you don't mind stepping outside for your conversations, because we're going to need space in the back there to be able to move around and get everything set up for the town hall. We're going to be doing this on Zoom. There's going to be a projection here. So anyone who is participating online, there's a link that was sent to you in a special news feed. And I believe it's also on the website. It's also on the website, so you can participate there. We will be giving you the opportunity to participate fully. It's a little bit of an experiment to make this work. Hybrid is always challenging, so we'll ask that everyone be patient, because we'll need to make sure that everyone can hear and everyone can participate. If you did not make a donation of school supplies, Deb is coming at 2 to pick up everything. So if you forgot stuff at home or you want to run to Staples, get it back here by 2 o'clock and leave it in the front lobby. She'll be grabbing the bags at 2 o'clock. There's a women's clothing swap coming up in September. See the announcements. Just so you know, the bathroom is going to be renovated cleaned up, and they'll be doing some work on September 23rd. There'll be a plant sale at the end of September. You should see flyers in the lobby. And the goods and services auction is coming on October 28th. So we have a lot going on. It's pretty exciting. We're looking forward to sharing all the news about the merger in the town hall. Again, try to start coming in and sitting down around 12-ish, and we'll get started at 12:15. All right? Thanks, everyone. Oh, and sorry, leave most of the chairs. Anyone who's picking up chairs, just take the ones out of the back. We want to make sure we have enough chairs for everyone to sit in, and we'll pick up the chairs after the town hall. All right? Thanks, guys.